Even if your notifications don't sound like that, just getting one every few minutes can be significantly draining, and the effects are surprising.
Research shows the distraction lasts much longer than the ping.
I can't stop looking at my phone.
What is genuinely worth your attention?
It takes over 20 minutes to get re-engaged into a task.
Phones have become such a distraction.
By some measures, we're bombarded by more than 63 notifications a day. If email is like rain, notifications seem like a storm to our productivity and our ability to focus.
A study published in the Psychological Science journal found that even minimal disruptions by a smartphone can have effects on sustained attention. And these notifications make us feel like we're always on call, with very little room to relax or to focus. And that's how they're designed. They are made to grab our attention. A study by Michigan State University researchers found that even a 2-second distraction, the context switch from what you were doing to that, is enough to make most people lose the thread. And getting back into your activity takes time, and you're often foggy.
Something we easily could have gotten done in 20 minutes, years ago, is now taking so much longer.
And notifications are really good at triggering a dopamine rush.
If it was predictably bad or predictably good, then you would not get addicted. The predictability would take out the addictiveness.
That's the same logic behind slot machines.
But what if I told you that just a few minutes of changing some settings on your iPhone can save you hours of your life? Let's start here. The problem. When we get a new iPhone and we're downloading new apps, we often just accept the pop-up that's like, do you want to allow notifications? And this is intuitive. Sometimes we'll go back in and just turn off some annoying notifications, but we never really go into our notification settings, at least I didn't until very recently, and we never really spend more than a few minutes thinking about this. This is the real problem, is we were never intentional about those settings in the first place. Changing that is what makes a tremendous difference. And it's because notifications are such a big part of the iPhone experience, and the iPhone is such a big part of our life experience. I'm not just gonna walk you through the different types of notifications like banners, lock screen, or whatever it is. In this video, you're gonna learn how to master iPhone notifications. And you're gonna learn to do it so effectively that you're never gonna need something like the do not disturb or focus modes that come with your phone. Think of it like a hotel room. You don't need to put a do not disturb paper sign on your door at 3 a.m. in the morning because the expectation is no one's gonna knock at your door. Room service is not gonna come in at 3 a.m. in the morning. People know and respect the fact that you're gonna be sleeping. Well, on your iPhone, unfortunately, if you don't take the time to do those steps in this video that I'm gonna show you, your time won't be respected because you never took the time to set the ground rules, to set the boundaries for these apps to interrupt you. And so they're out here literally at 3 a.m. sometimes notifying you whenever they want to and whenever they feel like taking your time and stealing your attention. All right, the first step, the groundwork. We're going to go through our notification settings and we're gonna turn off notifications for almost every app. We're gonna go through them one by one, and for each one, we're gonna ask, does this app deserve to take some of my time? Because I think the benefit I would get from the attention I would give it is greater than the potential disruption. All right, so I'm here in settings and I'm gonna scroll down to notifications. It's this red bell over here. And you're gonna notice that if you scroll down all the way over here to notification style, you're gonna notice that each app has its own individual section that you can click on and get settings for. So the idea here is that we're gonna go through them one by one. So I have Air Canada here, which is an airline app. And I'm gonna ask myself the question we discussed. The benefit I could get from a push notification, is that benefit worth the potential disruption that would happen? So Air Canada, for example, I think it is worth it. They send me important information if I have a flight. So in this case, I'm gonna keep this on. It's the one on the top here. I'm gonna allow notifications and we're gonna get to the types in just a second. But I'm gonna give you an example of one that I keep off, for example. So Amazon over here, I have it off. Amazon's a great example of a shopping app where I recommend having notifications off. There's really no reason for me to be notified about potential sales or things like that, even order tracking information. If I want to track an order, I just open the app and check it, but there's no reason for me to be notified. And it also triggers spending that sometimes is unnecessary. Another example, like a banking app, I have it on immediate and I have the notifications on because it's important to me. So let's now get into the types of banners. So Air Canada here, for example, alerts, there are 3 types. And for each app, you can have them on or off. So if I tap on it, it's off. If I tap on it again, it's on. Lock screen is what it says. So it means that if your phone is off in the lock screen, when you see it where there's the clock, it's going to show up or it's not going to show up. Notification center means it's staying or it's not staying when you scroll down from the top of your phone, the notification center that appears there. And banners actually means that while I'm using my phone, I can get the little notification on the top or I don't get it. So it's either you turn that on or off. Sounds speaks for itself. If you're on mute, it still won't make a sound, but it'll make a buzz. And right over here, we have badges. Let's get into this. Okay, so for badges, I recommend always having them off. The reason is some studies have shown that some bright colors like the red of the badges, like the numbers that flash in our face on our phones, they act like candy.
Human eyes are sensitive to warm colors. In eye tracking tests like this one, they gravitate particularly to bright red. A little icon like this, or this, doesn't have the same impact on your attention as this.
And unless there's specific value in seeing that number, for example, you might have a business email that is super urgent and that's specifically for urgent tickets, maybe you're gonna keep it. But in almost every other case, badges are not necessary. Okay, now it's time for the actual, I wouldn't call it advanced part, but the fun part, because this is what makes a really big difference once you've eliminated the obvious distractions and no's in step one. Notification summaries. So our ancestors, even our parents and grandparents, they grew up with a certain amount of information coming in every day. They would check a newspaper once a day, they would process that, and then they would act on it. The way we're different with phones is that we're getting a constant amount of information thrown at us all the time. And so this constant information makes it so that we have to process a lot more than anyone before us ever did. But the thing is, we might have evolved in our habits and in the way we act and in our devices, but our brains, they have not. And this is science that has shown it. And so what's going on is that we have so much information coming in that the part of our brains that's supposed to filter through the noise and what matters just can't function anymore. And that's why you probably feel tired and overwhelmed when you're at work or doing things that require a lot of focus, because there is a lot of noise coming in. And so notification summaries is what will condense the information down into digestible feeds of information.
In the study, one group of people were asked to check their email whenever they wanted throughout the day, while the other group had to do it in batches.
We found that people who batched their emails 3 to 5 times a day felt less stressed and less overwhelmed.
And the idea with these notification summaries and how they work is that only a few apps that require urgent attention are going to be able to notify you immediately. And so this is where this step is kind of an extension of what we did before we decided, okay, these are the apps that I want to accept information from because I think it's valuable. And now the question is, does the value I get from these notifications from these apps change if I don't act upon it immediately? And immediately is just so relative, because acting on something within 2-3 hours, honestly, most of the time is very quick. Okay, so I'm in my settings app over here. I'm gonna scroll down to notifications, the red bell again. And this time for summary, I'm gonna click on scheduled summary. So you can tap on that right over here. And here's all the settings for the summary. The first thing you want to do is obviously turn it on. So the toggle over here at the top should be green. And once it is, you'll see all of these options below. Timing we'll get into in a second, but let's just scroll down over here where we see apps in summary, and this is where you can turn on and off which apps you want to be included. So the goal with this reflection was to include literally everything except just a few apps, but the iPhone has this neat option where this list is categorized by how many notifications you're receiving a week on average from these apps. So you can see email is the most I get notified from, so Outlook I'm turning on. OpenPhone is an app that I decided I want to still receive immediate notifications from because it's a business app that I want to respond to quickly. But Messenger, Gmail, all these other apps over here, I've decided to include. If you prefer to just go through apps without this ranking, you can just go A to Z and you see all the apps alphabetically. Okay, now the important one, timing. Okay, I'll take a second to discuss timing here, because the way I approach this is that it's not just about getting my summary, it's about getting my summary at a time where I'm ready to get it and where I can act upon it. So for me, it's been around lunchtime, about an hour after I wake up, because I don't need to be bombarded with information right when I wake up. I like to, get out of the fogginess and then engage. And then around the evening, before I start winding down. Those are the 3 times I decided, but the key is finding a time that works for you. And quick tip, turn off the setting that lets you see a notification summary before it gets served. So there's this setting where you can see what a notification summary is going to contain before it's delivered. So let's say it is 10 a.m. and there's already a few notifications that have been grouped together in a summary that's supposed to come at 11. Well, turning this on would let me at 10 go and just see on my lock screen what's coming up. I highly recommend turning this off, and I'll tell you why. When you have this on, it's like my phone's over there. It hasn't buzzed because I have notification summaries on, but what if I got something? And it becomes a thing where you want to check it, and you check it, sometimes there's nothing, and you check it, sometimes there's something. And that's just a psychology thing where I found it creates a bad habit where I'm actually checking my phone a lot before the summary. And so the ideal thing is to turn this off. Okay, this last step is about extra protection. So steps 1 and 2 are already going to make a huge difference. They sure did for me, and I hope you see just as much of a change. But this last step is about adding the final touches, the final tweaks to kind of adjust and just perfect things along the way. Okay, so when it comes to tailoring and adjusting, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna do these steps 1 and 2, and you're gonna notice things about yourself. And then maybe there are some notifications that you allowed to come in immediately that you didn't include in the summary, and you're realizing that it's pretty distracting. And you know, for the 10 notifications I got this week, only 1 was urgent, and it wasn't really that crucial. And so you're gonna learn a lot of things about yourself now that you're thinking more intentionally about notifications. And it's super important to adjust based on that. Go back to your list of apps and turn things on and off again. Make sure things are working for you. Make sure you didn't miss anything important. Maybe an app needs to be re-allowed notifications. And what I highly recommend is, for measuring how well things are working, go to your screen time and don't just look at how much time you're spending in an app or anything like that. There's a section in screen time, and I'll show it to you, that shows you how many pickups you have, and it's a really good indication of how distracted you are from notifications. The key metric you should be tracking for what we're talking about today is this. Go in screen time, see your pickups, and see how distracted you are. And for the second part of this step 3, extra protections, do not disturb modes. Now, if you did everything we just talked about before, you will not need do not disturb mode, because you would have set up the boundaries so well that, just like the hotel room example we talked about in the beginning, no one's going to interrupt you at times you don't want to be interrupted, because you have set expectations. You've changed the rules to not be interrupted when you don't want to. But they can still be useful, and do not disturb modes are very complex. I can make a video about them. There's a lot of options and features, but what I still recommend, if you want my take on it, is 2 things. The sleep mode is pretty important, and the do not disturb mode, the general one that just turns off notifications for as long as you have it on, can be very useful for important meetings. If you have a job interview in person, for example, if you have a call with someone you really want to focus on, you just turn it on and off. Okay, a quick conclusion, but you should really listen to it because I think it's important. The first thing I want to say is you have to practice empathy. Notifications, our phones, social media, everything we're talking about in this video was designed to wreck your attention, to completely destroy your focus.
When you get a call, a text, or a message, it's usually because another person wants to communicate with you. But a lot of today's apps simulate the feeling of that kind of social interaction to get you to spend more time on their platform. If Facebook sends you a push notification that a friend is interested in an event near you, they're essentially acting like a puppet master, leveraging your desire for social connection so that you use the app more.
And so it is not your fault that things are designed this way. And that's something that's really important to think about, because when you're going through these steps, when you're making this effort to regain your focus, to reclaim control of your attention, you can feel like you're doing things wrong when things don't work out. But the reality is it's hard, and it's hard by design, because these things were made to do the opposite of what you're trying to do. And so it's really important to realize that it's your responsibility to take things into control and to make this change in your life, because you want to see the benefit of it, which is just amazing and makes a huge difference. But be kind to yourself. If you like this kind of video and you want videos that create positive change in your life, whether it's about finances, about tech like this, about health, or anything like that, please subscribe. It makes a huge difference for the channel. Hit the like button if you are trying this out, if you enjoyed what I talked about, and please share your experience. I love hearing about how things go for people other than myself. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments as well, and have a great day.